I'm sorry to cut the podcast like this. My wife just texted me in all caps, I hear you talking shit.
Ah!
What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to the Best in Slot Radio Podcast. It's a podcast focused on Final Fantasy XIV, its game design and features, as well as how it compares to other games on the market. I'm one of your hosts, Dtg, and with me, as always, are my boys, as in Nox. Say hi, boys.
Sup, homies?
Yo!
And this is episode number 13. We're actually going to break down the live letter that just happened on Friday. We record on Sundays. So let's just kind of dive into it. What I was told before we actually had the live letter come out is they said that they were going to talk about the roadmap for the next 10 years. At the beginning of the live letter, they actually kind of talked about the last 10 years. Pretty cool to see things come full circle. I don't know how you guys felt about that particular moment.
I do. I think that I really enjoyed the introspection bit. Honestly, the thing that I'm really psyched for is just talking about future plans. You know, them spacing out, this is what we're doing, this is what we're working on, this is how we have it planned and how it's going to release. Because that's not something you really typically get very often.
Right. With a lot of games.
No, not at all. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, this experience is a bit different because this is an ongoing experience because it's an MMO.
Sure.
So that is a different angle to tackle it from. But I still, regardless, it's so cool to be able to see, like, here's the game plan. This is what's coming here. This is what's coming here. And we do have plans moving forward for at least the next 10 years.
Well, like, even just kind of foreshadowing about what we're going to be going into, but, like, even how vague they are about, like, such the detailed breakdown. Again, it's kind of vague details, but it's for such a vast amount of different, like, system updates and changes that it's just like, wow, this is exciting to see.
Yeah. Making changes continuously and is just kind of validating as a player for a developer to go, we don't believe our game's finished. There's always room for improvement. And it's great because it just, it makes me devoting my time feel like I'm doing the right thing by trusting them. And also, how many employees still are there? Like, that to me is what kind of stood out, is like they showed, employees that have been there since A Realm Reborn came out, and it's just like, man, these guys really, really genuinely love their jobs.
Yeah, no, it's a breath of fresh air, especially in the climate of game design nowadays, and how it feels like every other half a year you find out about someone else cleaning house, and it just feels shitty.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah, like not about just being in the industry for a decade, but being, like, loyal to the same developer, if you will, for that decade. Like, that says a lot.
Yeah, it means you trust their vision and you're growing individually still. Because I think that's when I would change jobs, is when I'm no longer growing. Even if the money's good, I'm looking to continue. That's me personally. Not everyone feels that way, but I'm sure there are developers who view their talents in a similar fashion.
And I mean, that's not even to say about the recent boom in 14's popularity. I mean, just before Endwalker dropped, there was a huge surge in players, obviously, so it's like their work and all of their hard work and dedication for years and years managed to get together a player base and have a very dedicated player base. And it fucking hit pay dirt not long ago. And they're huge now, way huge.
Yeah.
And probably are only going to get bigger from this point going forward.
Yeah, I agree on that one. Not just with the 14 IP, but I think the people working on 14, whenever this game is no longer continuing in their development, will still have a place in the company.
Yeah,
there's some talent.
I wouldn't go far as to say it's not a stretch to say 14 was very underrated up until recently.
Right.
And when it hit the mainstream, it's definitely come back down because server stability has come back up. We're actually able to log in.
Feels good.
But I mean, it's yeah. I don't think it's ever going to go back to what it used to be in a good way. And I'm really, really excited moving forward into the future to see what they have planned out.
Yeah. Well, they've created a company that it feels like you want to work for. Speaking of that, Square Enix is hiring. I'll put a link down in the description for you. All right, let's move on. So, part 2 of our podcast, we're going to talk about kind of the first big ticket items that they brought up at the live letter. So, the first one is focusing on single player content, and how they're going to be approaching that is in patch 6.1, which is currently slotted for an April release. All of the MSQ dungeons in ARR will be using the trust system.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's fucking nuts.
Fun fact, actually, a buddy of mine has just recently started his journey in Eorzea, and yeah, it's pretty interesting where he's going to basically be, because he's actually just getting to Heaven's Word now, just finishing up ARR. So, yeah.
So my wife just finished Gridania. I'm probably going to tell her not to play until 6.1 drops. But what? And that's because she had such a bad WoW experience playing with other people. The trust system lends to her and her playstyle.
I mean, it wouldn't even just be her, but I definitely feel like there is, especially for 14, that is so story driven, a call for it.
Right.
Like, it's insane.
Even just on a role
right,
playing perspective.
I like coming from it. If this had been any other MMO, I wouldn't. I'd be baffled, right?
Right.
But it makes sense for
Yeah.
14, especially because of the success of the trust system, not only from Endwalker, but coming from Shadowbringers. It's huge. It's been a raging success. Like, even if like I go back to farm dungeons with friends, which is what I usually end up doing, being able to just go through the storyline and not have to worry about queue times or getting other people or messing up on a boss fight and just enjoying the story is such a huge thing. Like, that would get there will definitely be other people I can convince now, like, hey, you can basically do the story single player now.
Right.
Almost entirely.
Yeah. And like the times you aren't solo player are so few and far between, it's really not going to impact you as badly as you may think.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the reason I find it most interesting is because of something Yoshi P had said, which was a lot of people will play the Final Fantasy IP, but they won't play 11 or 14 because they're MMOs. And this is an opportunity to pollinate in that player group. He didn't use the word pollinate, but he talked about how he doesn't like that people are afraid to join 14 or 11 because they're MMOs. And he wants people to enjoy those games.
Yeah.
I mean, this is, from a financial standpoint, this is fucking genius. Like, even if it's just the free trial, getting people hooked in through that is, I mean, if you see a 50-50 success rate, the money they're going to make from something like this is just nuts.
And we're not even talking, this is a long-term project that they're slowly going to be incorporating in. Like, you can say long-term over the patch cycle of Endwalker, but by the end of Endwalker, they intend to have the entirety of the game via trust system.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's insane.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. And they'll work on the 8-mans after that. I think having I think it's a smart choice to have the 8-mans stay that for now and just say, hey, we know you wanted to do it single player because you're using the trust system. However, this is still an MMO. We're going to make you do this. There's really, 3 or 4 in ARR, 2 in Heaven's Ward, 3 in Stormblood, 3 in
there's not a ton,
so 20 of them total.
But and not only that, but he even touched on that, saying like even the trust system success with the Hydaelyn fight,
right?
We want to do 8-player trusts. we didn't think it was going to go as well as it did.
As
And
clean as it did, yeah.
in our recaps about the Heidelin fight, I told you guys that I did my first run through with the trust system, and it was a one shot.
Yeah. And it's a banger of a fucking fight too. It's not an easy fight, even on normal. I don't think so. I think while it's easy to understand, executing is different. And so to have the trust system work to that degree, really fun. Really fun.
That's some awesome AI.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of 8-mans, so the last thing about the trust system and the updates to it, Castrum, Meridium, and Praetorium will no longer be 8-man experiences. They are talking about A, moving it to 4-man, but B, breaking up Praetorium because it's just too long. Just due to the amount of cutscenes. So they're thinking of shrinking it and cutting it into basically several pieces, which I think is also a great idea because that's a tough sell, man. Like, yeah, you only got to go through it once, but it's going to take you an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Especially
the first run through.
Yeah.
Especially if you're doing the trust system, which is notorious for being longer than with people. Yeah, it will definitely be an hour and a half, if not longer, of an experience.
Exactly.
Yeah, because actually recently my buddy just finished Praetorium, and I was just chilling in voice chat, waiting for him, rooting him on and whatnot, because we were going to be shifting over to Dark Souls after he finished that.
Sure.
And he's like, "Yeah, all right, cool." In those ending cutscenes, and I'm like, "Sweet, all right, I'll be ready for you. You know, let me log out and hop over there." 45 minutes later,
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Shit, I did not realize." Like, I mean, wow,
it's a lot. It's a lot.
That's what frustrates me about the people on like Reddit and social media who get upset at the length of it when it's optional for those particular players. Like the people who do it again because they want the benefits in game. I don't think you have a leg to stand on because you're doing it voluntarily, whereas like the new player experience, you have to do it.
I don't think anyone's upset that either of these are going away per se. I know I'm not.
No.
I can say definitively it is an awful experience for new people.
Yeah.
Have you get into the Praetorium Gauntlet and everyone in the group, if you're unless you're new, is just gone.
Yep. Yeah.
And then you die and you have no idea what the fuck's going on.
Yep.
And then they're like, "Oh, you can just teleport to us as soon as the fight starts." And you don't want to do that.
No.
You want to experience what's going on. And they don't give a shit.
No, not at all. It's very frustrating.
It is turned into a farm.
Yeah, and when you miss one thing, like I remember I did a Praetorium run, this was months ago, and I didn't get my key to get into the Magitech. I just
they're
forgot.
gone. They're
gone. I can't do anything about it because I got automatically ported to where the mechs are. Yep. And it's like, well, all right, fucking great.
Then you wait for the fight to start way the fuck down in the depths that takes like 5 minutes to get to. And then they finally start the fight and you get teleported to it and you have no idea what happened in between if you're a new person.
Yeah. And you're like, all right, well, what just happened? And they're like, well, we went in here and we did it. Where were you? You're like, getting punished for not knowing any better.
It's like, you do the thing and you click on the stuff and it's like, what the fuck do you mean click on the stuff?
Yeah.
And then the first time you're there, you're a new player, you assume because every dungeon up until this point has fucking done this, if one person has the key, you all have the key.
You all have it, right.
That's not how it works in Praetorium.
Yeah, it's very frustrating. Very, very tough experience.
So these being reworked is an awesome thing for new people and their experience in ARR.
Absolutely. I think this was a very smart, calculated decision. A, for getting new players in, but B, they're probably going to cut back the experience for the roulettes now. However, you can get one of 3 different portions of Praetorio now, and it's going to take you 30 minutes instead of an hour and 30 minutes. Like, no game should have you in cutscenes so long that it's literally referred to as, all right, Netflix and chill.
I'm wondering if they're just going to cut out MSQ roulettes entirely. Like
I
they're
wouldn't
just
be
gone.
surprised. Yeah, I would not be surprised at all.
If they're really turning them into like separate instances, like you
Yeah.
said, then they would probably just throw them into the regular roulette thing.
Yep.
Like every now and then you get a chunk of Praetorium.
Yeah, for your dungeon roulette or something.
Yeah.
Or raid roulette. Yeah. Well, that actually moves us to our next topic. The other big thing they talked about in the live letter, which is a graphical update. So 7.0, we will be seeing a graphical update. It's not going to be super big to start. From what they were saying, they're going to focus on a couple of main things, if you will. But I think it's great. I think they're smart about it. This is a really good decision, in my opinion.
Yeah, they showed a few examples. The meme going around right now is the grass, which looks amazing.
It looks great.
It's a huge. I think it, like, we're making fun of it, but like from a video game standpoint, it is a really solid representation of moving forward graphically. It looks great.
Yeah.
But they even mentioned when they were showing off the updates, this is only like a month of work.
Right.
We're nowhere near finished. This is not what it's going to be looking like towards going into the next expansion.
Right.
This is a taste of what we're working on, so you know where we're at.
Yeah, which is impressive with what they showed.
Yes, it's already an improvement. Everyone agrees.
The lighting and shadow effects on some of the player faces was really great.
Multiple light sources looks dope.
Yeah,
for shadows.
I think that's a big thing for the G-Pose community. You know, is like the lighting on that is pretty much only top down. I don't know if you guys use like G-Pose and then G-Shade. So I'm excited to say the least. I think this is a very good thing for the health and longevity of the game.
Oh, entirely. This could be almost thought of as like when WoW remodeled all of their main player characters, essentially, right? Like, it's been quite a few expansions since this game initially launched. So yeah, no, I think it's about time to move forward with something like that. So
agreed. Yeah, I think it's really gonna allow it to have kind of the long-term success that WoW has had, because WoW's not dead. Let's be very clear about that. And they are 17 years in. We're at year 10. You know, shit, if this game makes it another 10 years like they're planning on doing it, I'd be fucking not only stoked but amazed. And this is that step towards it.
I feel like, especially with how Yoshi P they're incorporating the trust system stuff now. Mm-hmm. They are planning for like long term. We want to retain as many people as possible.
Agreed.
I feel that they're definitely taking a really big step forward with making it accessible to everybody at any time.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's such a huge thing. It could take a person, if they're taking their time, months to get through the story from beginning to end if they're using just the trust system and not doing anything else in the game.
Yeah, my wife's going to take a year. I'm going to tell you guys that right now. And when she's playing, I'll tell you about it, but she'll probably play 2, maybe 3 hours a week. You know, and so in that regard, like, this allows her to go at her own pace, not have to worry about anybody else, and she can just focus on, okay, what do I get to do next? Yay. And that's good game.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm pretty pumped. But let's move on to part 3 of the podcast. Let's talk about not necessarily in detail. We'll touch on a couple of small things, but so patch 6.1, as I said earlier, it is slated for
April.
I'm sorry to cut the podcast like this. My wife just texted me in all caps, "I hear you talking shit."
That's great.
That's pretty funny. So in April, we get 6.1, and that comes with a lot of new content. So I'm pretty excited. I know Ez will want to talk about point number 2. Number 1, we don't know anything about it, so let's not really talk about it, but we get the Alliance Raid part 1. I think it's going to be good.
Mists of the Realm.
Yeah, Mists of the Realm. I think it's going to be really good. I think it's also going to be in that Asphodelos, Elpis type type world, if you will. So I'm really excited for what they can and will do with that. It is completely original content to Final Fantasy XIV, which, the last couple of Alliance raids have been crossovers. So I think this is really good.
Well, this is where they've been alluding to, like explaining the 12. So this is where it begins.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
pretty stoked for that.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
As for the crystalline conflict,
Yeah, point number two.
There's not really a ton to add on because we haven't learned much more. They're still progressing forward with it. It'll be really cool to finally get the new PvP mode because a lot of us more PvP leaning people have been excited about getting our hands on it and seeing how it actually goes.
Yeah.
But I mean, still hopeful, still excited to see what the progression system is going to be like and what the rewards are. But I just gotta. I'm not counting my chickens before
I
they
was
hatch.
going to say, yeah,
it's
keeping a low expectations.
No one has ever been under the assumption that the PvP of Final Fantasy XIV has been nothing but its weakest point.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's fine because this game, and it's something that I talked about. I don't know if I've talked about on the podcast, but I've talked about with some of my 14 friends. The entirety of the 14 community and the game itself is built around the concept of cooperation and being together as a team or something, and all for one for all kind of deal.
Right.
That does not really translate well to a PvP narrative.
No.
And also I've said it before, but I very much disliked a chunk of the PvP community because it's extremely toxic.
Well, even the core mechanics of the PvP maps, it literally turns into Zerg swarms.
Yep.
And I mean, I get the ideas that they wanted to incorporate with the maps that they try, but that's literally all it devolves down to is Zerg swarms, cap, move on to the next, and I just feel it would be better if there was a little bit more agency involved.
Touching on WoW's version of PvP, just like how Final Fantasy 14, well, it's more overall narrative and theme I'm going for.
Okay.
Warcraft, it's fucking Warcraft.
Right.
It is based
sense.
along the ideology of two opposing factions fighting constantly, trying to kill each other.
Yeah, each actual PvP not arena but Warfront or whatever is an actual battlefield. It's
from the
lore wise, it's an actual front line.
Exactly. The community and the overall narrative is steeped in this idea of conflict. We're not. So recently they talked about how they're going to be allowing Alliance and Horde players to do dungeons and shit together.
Yep.
Unprecedented. The community lost their shit.
Yep. Not stoked about it.
And I was extremely stoked about it because I fucking hate playing Horde and I want to be an Alliance person, but all my friends are Horde.
That's not how I feel. Go ahead. No, sorry.
But
finish that.
yeah, but that's all I mean is the ideology of the communities are just two entirely different beasts.
Yeah.
I feel like the part of the reason 14's PvP is so weak is people just don't give a shit.
No.
They don't care about doing PvP because that's not what they're into. Versus Warcraft, which is what they're very much a part of being into.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, obviously people understand that Final Fantasy is a combat game. There's no surprises there, but you hit the nail on the head. One game is literally, its lore is steeped in conflict, and the other game is about overcoming challenges together. So it really is, I don't know if design philosophy is the way to say it, but it's design philosophy. They have that in mind when they do it, and PvP is such an afterthought for this community.
Well, I mean, it's just that I guess one because of the overall design philosophy, it is trying to attract different types of people. And because of that, there's just not a ton of people that are super interested in PvP.
Yeah.
And when they are, it's either a very small toxic minority, potentially, or another side bit that's also small but is much more welcoming and like, hey, let's do these big battlegrounds together. So yeah, overall, I'm really excited. I'm hopeful, but
Yeah.
I'm not counting anything. We'll see what it is when we get our hands on it.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that it will be dead in the water either. Like there's
Right.
plenty of time for them to improve upon this, but knock on wood.
Yeah, it remains to be seen. Next one, we don't really need to touch too much on it. Arcasadara, Beast Tribes are coming out. I'll be honest; these are the pixie dailies of this expansion. So this will it would. I mean, okay, that is technically speculation. It fits when you think about what, like, lore wise, when you think about what the Loperites meant to us and what their role is in the whole story versus what Arcasadara is. Which one is for crafting and gathering, and which one is for combat XP? Arcasadara is going to be the combat XP. I'm just going to say that now. So, but moving on, we know the new ultimate that's coming out. We have an official name, and it is slated for 6.1, and that's going to be the Dragon's Hong's Reprise. We don't know much. They didn't really show off too much. What I will say about this, 6.1 seems lucky that we're getting it this quickly. Just remember, for any of our listeners who are newer to the game, this was actually supposed to come out in Shadowbringers and got delayed. So they've been working on this for a while, which we could potentially see 2 ultimate fights this expansion. Who knows? Which would be pretty sweet. Another thing they touched on in 6.1, finally, Ishgard Housing is coming out.
Bloodbath.
Yeah, it's going to be nuts. But they did talk a little bit about the lottery. We don't have to go too far, but they decided to go 100% lottery. You can still gain housing the way that it is currently done. However, after doing some internal testing, they found that the fairest and best way to go about it would be to do an all-in lottery, which I think is the right call. And then they decided that they'll revisit it in the future if the system has problems.
Yeah, that's dope.
It's great. I think it's a great decision for them to
because literally everyone was already, at least in some of the circles I know, people were planning routes like, how am I going to be able to get to a house before other people?
Yep.
Like, am I going to be able to load in first? Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So the idea that we're going 100% lottery is like, thank fucking God,
Yeah.
I do not have to do that bullshit.
Well, and I'm at a point in my life where I can't log on when the servers come up to do something like this.
Yeah, exactly. You can't adjust my life around. Like
to release
playing
with
the
one
game.
thing.
Like, yeah, exactly. Like a little bit here, but like literally like the day to day, like, come on.
No chance.
Look, I'm that kind of fucking nerd that will take vacation time to plan for an expansion launch.
Yeah, that's what
I'm not doing that to potentially get a fantasy house. Not even guaranteed.
Yeah.
Potentially have a chance.
I mean, if I was guaranteed, maybe.
I wouldn't do it even guaranteed. It's just this is personal, but it's not that important.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not.
Like I think that's
that's something that they're like, Yoshi P especially is like really leaning into the narrative of. It's like, you should not be having to sacrifice real life things in order to do things in the game.
In this game,
it is a game. Play it at your leisure
and have fun.
It's about fun, guys. Come on.
Yeah. So, like we said in 6.1, the trust system will be going for all of the ARR base 2.0 MSQ dungeons. So you're looking at like 10 to 15 or so in that particular range, which would be great. And then new hairstyles for Rothgar.
Yay! They don't have to change their faces. Well, hopefully. We're assuming at this point, because they didn't elaborate on it.
Right.
But we're hoping that this means that Hrothgar's faces are no longer attached to their hair.
I also think one thing, though, they are not going to be able to add more helm styles, which I think kind of sucks. because I know for Rothgar and Bunny Boys, it's kind of a big sticking point for some people. So
I've already said, I don't know if I've said on the podcast, but I've definitely said if I could wear all hats on my Bunny Boy, I would have stayed a Bunny Boy.
right, yeah, you did say that, and I get it. Like, I'm not into glam, but if a piece of the outfit that I specifically and like meticulously designed can't be worn, well, I'm not going to do that outfit. Like, what the fuck, you know? That's
I'm not going to do that race. I'm not. I'm just not going to switch.
Yeah, it's unfair.
I'm still Bunny Boy over here.
I don't know too much about this because I actually stepped away from my computer when they talked about this. Do either of you know anything about the custom deliveries for Amelians?
I do not. I've never done the custom deliveries anything.
Yeah.
But everyone was so excited about it.
Because they like a lot of the community likes her character. I think she's one of the most underrated side characters. So I'm glad her story is going to be expanded a little bit. You know, it's kind of a full circle moment knowing that all this time Alfie's mom and dad, or Alfie and Alice's mommy was donating money so that they could be well funded in the Scions. Like, awesome. You know? But we'll see how that kind of turns out. Updates to the glamour system coming in 6.1.
Could they be any more mysterious?
Yeah, they didn't say shit about what it was.
I mean, I Yoshi P, you fucking bastard. But I mean, like, I think the assumption, at least, like, bare minimum, more glamour plates is what we're expecting. There have been more jobs released. We, like, not to mention, like, all of the crafting shit. So everyone's like, more glamour plates. That I feel like that's the base. But asterisk, little boop. We want more.
Yeah, of course.
we're hoping for more. But
that's
you know,
because the system has flaws now. That's why you want more.
It does. The biggest flaw is like I mean, honestly, my hope, I don't care if they rework the entire system. That's something that I've talked about because I'm a little WoW baby and I liked my old system where I got a thing and it was just there forever.
Yeah.
I
think it's a better system.
I mean, yeah, I agree, but at the same time, the glamour plate concept and not having to constantly pay to re-glamour something is a huge plus.
Yep.
So because of that, it would be really cool to double the inventory space of the glamour chest, if not more. We're at 500 slots. Give me 1,000. Fuck, give me 2,000.
Well, and I think
let me shove all my stuff in there.
Yeah, I agree. I think the glamour dresser. Yeah, I think the glamour dresser needs expansion.
I feel like asking for 1,000 is already pushing it. I don't think something as ridiculous as 2,000 would ever happen. But still, my biggest problem with glamour is that specifically glamour plates and not having enough room.
Yeah, that's brutal. I mean, like I said, I don't ever have to deal with it, so no big deal. But
you filthy glamour peasant.
Yeah, but I get it. Like, you know, you guys are not the only ones I talk to, and you know, it's a consistent gripe. And you know, like this is one of the few dev companies that have been like, hey, at least they listen to feedback and try to act on it. They know that they have problems with it, and they just haven't found that, like, there's no perfect solution to this problem, but they haven't found the right solution just yet. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. I think like none of us are like, oh, I wish they would listen. No, they listen. These are the most vocal back and forth devs I've ever encountered in any fucking video game. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing.
It's more so just a matter of like, all right, let's just wait. Like we know,
like
the major points are going to be hit and updated.
We didn't touch upon it when we brought up that Ishgard housing was finally dropping, but the moment people were like saying, "Oh, when are we getting houses on the moon?" and the progression of Yoshi P's like, face, like, guys,
hysterical.
You just got Ishgard. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
You know, I think for him in particular, and I can't speak for him. I don't know this man. I wish I did. But, you know, if I were in a similar position, it's like, take is all I'm hearing from my players, and I want to keep them happy, but there are some things that are just out of my realm of control.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not to mention like, so the Ishgard housing, right? If they just didn't make that, if that wasn't a thing, those could have all been plots thrown onto all of the other housing districts.
But
That's
they'd be
how
upset.
exactly, because they want fucking Ishgard housing.
Right.
Like these servers and plots don't just come out of thin air, and they're not the easiest thing to slap onto the game.
Right.
So I imagine, much like making races, they kind of want to be fucking done with making new housing districts and just add on to what they have.
I will say this: I was not around for a couple of the other housing districts that came out, like the Kugane one in Storm's Blood, and then obviously we're getting Ishgard for this one. The lore supports housing in Ishgard because we rebuilt it through the restoration effect. It also technically, if you kind of think outside the box, is represented in the MSQ. The reason I say that is because at one point they had to shrink down the housing in the moon because they realized we're not as tall as all the Asians, and so that little weird lore thing could open up space for it. Just saying.
It can make sense. I agree
exactly.
with you. It's just that this is one of those things where it's like, is it?
Do you really need it?
Yeah,
No.
but I guess like it can be argued a bunch across the different things. Like even with glamour, it's not a necessity; it's a want.
Yeah, it's a
and
want,
how many
yeah.
people want it, and how much is it like important to people?
Right.
Because like fucking gonna be the asshole here. How many more amazing locales are we gonna get where we're like, I want a house there?
Right. Well, and at what point? At one point, is it no longer cool because you can only have one house? So it's like, man, I really want to be on the moon, but I don't want to give up this beautiful seaside location in
Honestly,
Kugane.
I'm gonna be legit and real with you guys. I would prefer a single instanced standalone house system, like one person, an instance home, and it's someplace that can be in multiple locations that are popular across the game.
Yeah, I'd love that.
And it's something they can continuously add on moving
Personal
forward.
home airship, gotcha.
Like
There it is.
exactly.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
even
that'd
fucking
be
joking.
sweet. Yeah.
Like that would be
Exactly
awesome,
like that.
actually.
I'd fucking
Like,
love that. Yeah.
shit.
Like it's because it's an instance little home, like a little apartment kind of thing. It could be just anywhere.
Yeah.
Not,
That'd be great.
Yeah, I would prefer something like that than a huge housing community.
Yeah.
Genuinely. No more
I agree.
fighting over having to get a plot. I just give me someplace cool and a really neat locale that I love.
Yeah, I agree. I think that'd be way better. That's why I like having an apartment. It's mine. And if I want people to come to it, I can invite them. But if not, no big deal.
But I
can
don't
show
ever
off through
want them.
pictures. Yeah, exactly. I don't fucking know you. What the fuck?
Why are you
don't
taking
want
pictures of
Random
my
people
lawn?
just wandering in your apartment.
yeah, yeah. So to finish out 6.1 and everything we're getting, we know new trials. They said multiple, not just one, and other assorted updates. So obviously a little bit of a, hey, we don't have everything. They did say the next live letter is going to be on March 4th.
Ooh,
and
boy.
there will be more information during that time. So we will be good. Obviously, when we're speaking of new trials, I think all of us here really understand that the AX version of Endsinger is coming.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, they're not going to push it back to 6.2. That's not happening. So.
No, but he also said trials.
yeah,
so,
so
he's probably
what
also
else?
going to touch on the trial coming potentially from the new story,
Correct.
if there is one.
If there is one. Yeah, exactly. So we'll see. That wraps up 6.1. We'll move to part 4, which is the planned updates they talked about in 6.2. So what they said for the trust system is how they're going to be releasing it through the 6.1 through 6.5 patch series is patch 2.x's. So everything after ARR 2.0 up until Heaven's Ward and a few small number of Heaven's Ward main scenario dungeons they will be putting into the trust system, which I think is awesome because, you know, this just keeps that flow of, okay, well, if you're taking this pace by pace and you're on the free trial, everything is now available to you,
Yeah.
all the way up until Heaven's Ward.
Oh god,
Pretty
I'm
fat.
so excited.
Yeah,
So
I would
excited.
do it again just to know who, because we haven't talked about this. They said that the way the trust is going to work, especially during the ARR stuff, is the people that you go with are going to have to make sense.
Yeah, that's gonna be sick.
That's going to be so tight, because there's certain moments where like you go in and
Guys.
it's like, hey, go to this dungeon, and you're walking
you-
with Alfie, and Alfie's like, cool, I got to go over here for a little bit. I'll see you when you're done. You're good.
Yeah.
It might not even be just our regular scions. Like there
Yeah.
are other times where they're not all there together with us.
Right.
It could be like fucking Sid goes into a dungeon with
Yeah.
us when we're in
Or-
Castrum.
What happens when all of a sudden you get your heartstrings pulled on because you're playing it again a new game plus, and Moon Brita is one of your trust mates? You know, like small shit like that where we have not forgotten about these characters, but we haven't played that original story in so long. So where they are in that story at that time, like, I mean, let's not split hairs here. Minfilia is never coming with us. She's fucking useless. So, you know, like Moon Brita we might see at any given point, which would be just fucking spectacular.
Yeah, that would be.
I'd be stoked. All right, 6.2 also has weapon enhancements. I don't know what the fuck that means.
It
I-
might-
Yeah, I don't know what
think
to make of it, but
it might mean the weapons, the like the animas or the the
relic
weapon
system?
the next
grind.
legend. Yeah, the next
relic
relic.
system.
Yeah,
Okay.
the next relic of this expansion.
Okay.
At least that's what I got from weapon enhancements. I
Sure.
could be entirely off base there, but like, what else would a singularity like pointing out weapon enhancements?
Right, exactly. Yeah. So we'll see. You're probably right. It's probably the relic. Well, so and then the next thing they talked about is the Criterion dungeon,
So excited.
which is so let's talk about this. It is a scalable dungeon based on how many people you have in the party when you go into it. Awesome.
Your boy is going in there by himself day
Yeah.
one.
I want to do it by myself, but B, what dungeons they didn't specifically say any, or at least I don't remember them specifically saying any. Me and my wife can just go by ourselves. Is that what this is saying? Like, awesome.
Just the
Two
two
of
of
us.
us.
I mean, look, I've already got Warrior at max and full gear. I'm
Right.
good.
Yeah,
I'm a gear by myself, baby.
yeah, exactly. And I think that's really cool. I also think that hopefully this kind of works into the trust system as well, because one thing that does suck about the trust, it's just you. If you have one other person with you, no. If you have two other people with you, no. So it's kind of in that weird little area where
Man,
like couples
you-
can't really do trusts together.
Can you imagine doing Praetorium by yourself?
Dude,
Oh
I actually think I'd
1v1
like it.
Ultima.
Yeah, I think I'd like
Bring
it
it
better.
on.
Yeah, I think I'd like it better. But they did bring it up. Details are pretty scarce, but dungeons can be entered with anywhere between 1 and 4 people, and will scale. So more to come on that. But I'm excited, and it sounds
Oh,
like
yeah.
you guys are as well.
Oh yeah, I love
yeah.
any kind of like solo player challenge shit. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, me too. And the episode we just recorded, which is actually going to come out next week after this, we talk about solo player, and this is just adding to that. And it feels like what we talked about last week, we're just getting our wishes granted. So if you're listening to the podcast, keep listening, because clearly we know what the fuck we're talking about, and we're just going to will this shit into existence. I'm just saying. Like,
We're just
that's
predicting the
what we're
future.
about it.
We know it.
Yeah, absolutely. We speak it into existence. That's all this is. The other two things we see in 6.2 are going to be the Island Sanctuary is having new
Finally.
features added. Yeah. Not new features. It is being added. So 6.2 is officially when we are going to see Island
Get to
Sanctuary
grow my
features.
vegetables.
I mean, barring any
Yeah.
setbacks, we'll see what happens. But I think they know their roadmap, and I think 6.2 was the most feasible for this particular game element, game system. So pretty pumped. 6.2 also will have the new tier of Pandemonium. I'm fucking pumped. So some new faux hollows that we can attempt, other trials, and more. We already don't know what trials are coming in 6.1, so there's no point in speculating on
We it'll be touched on a little bit later, but like I'm convinced the trials are tied in with this new Tataru quest line.
I do too, yeah, because we're gonna talk about Tataru a little bit because that's planned in 6.4, 6.5, or no. So 6.1 through 6.5, they're gonna be doing that new questline series, which will be pretty sweet. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Let's talk 6.3. The trust system will have updated for all Heaven's Ward main scenario dungeons by 6.3. So if they're in a 4-patch cycle, that means 6.3 comes out January 2023. By January 2023, the entire free trial, other than 8-man trials, will be single player.
Yeah.
1 year. I mean, if you had an excuse of not wanting to try the game, that literally pulls 90% of your argument.
Yeah.
I mean, fuck, this is going to be great. But we talked about it a little bit, and we confirmed it in our Discord channel. Deep Dungeon is coming back.
Yeah, man.
Oh, dude. I'm so pumped.
I think it's obviously going to be set in Shadowbringers.
Yep.
I think my Pixie idea has some juice, guys.
No, you know what? I think it's going to be on the moon.
Really?
Ooh,
Okay.
I think we're going to go, it's going to be like one of those infinite corridor hallway things as we go deeper and deeper in the moon.
Like some moon
Like
hyperbolic time chamber.
Like a Smiletron.
Essentially. I mean, like we saw, like going through Smiletron, just a bit of like the capabilities of what their workings and machinations are.
Sure.
I would totally see going like through a maze of the La Perit's making.
Okay.
Like, oopsies.
We didn't mean to do it.
I could see it. I you know what? I'm still gonna stick to my guns though. I feel it in my core. I think the Pixie idea has juice. So, just in case anyone wasn't aware and didn't listen to a previous episode, I'm calling it right now. The Pixie idea is good. It's gonna go. It's gonna go. But the return of Ultimate Duty or Ultimate Dungeons are coming back. That'll be coming back in 6.3. Is it Ultimate Dungeons? Is that what they're called? Unreal Dungeons, excuse me.
Yeah.
And
Unreal.
then 6.3 is potentially when they release the next Ultimate. That remains to be seen. We'll see. Island Sanctuary will get an update shortly after its release.
Which I'm obviously a bunch of us were confused. Like, we don't even know like the kind of like baseline what all's going to be there on the Island Sanctuary because they've been very close to the chest with this.
Yes.
So I'm curious like what the update to that is going to be.
Yeah.
They've already got
so
one
quickly.
planned.
Yeah, and so quickly. Like, what? To me, in my head, I look at it and I go, what's behind that won't be ready, but is so close that you know you'll get it done in this time frame?
Yeah.
And again, like you just said, we don't know anything, so it's too hard. Yeah, that'll be good. But 6.4, 6.5, they really didn't touch on too crazy. Obviously, being so far away, I think we're moving away from a 3-month patch cycle to a 4-month patch cycle. So that's going to put us at 3 a year instead of 4 patches a year. But I also think the volume of the content happens to be so vast, I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Yeah, they showed a graph and they gave in. It makes total sense to make it to span out the patch cycles a bit more because it's so much stuff.
Right.
But I mean, what's amazing is that they're so consistent with it and have been consistent with it for so many years.
Yeah.
So I'm totally in agreement. Yeah, 4 months is fine. Take all the time you need. This game's amazing.
Not only that, but they added I don't know if it's company-wide or specific to 16. They didn't really answer this, but they said that their developers and the entire like game company that is a part of 14 will get 2 weeks of vacation twice, or 1 week of vacation twice a year. So 2 weeks in total. One in the summer, one around New Year's. Like guaranteed, no matter what, we're shutting down the studio, and you guys take a week to yourselves.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That's awesome.
Especially if anyone here or listening knows anything about the work environment in Japan.
Yeah, it's crazy intense.
It's fucking hell. Like even by American standards, it is bad.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a point of pride for them over there.
Yeah.
So for a
forcing
company
some
to change that.
yeah, forcing some vacation time is good. I wholeheartedly agree with that decision on their part.
Yeah, great decision. So that moves us to 6.4, 6.5. Like I said, we don't have a lot to kind of speculate on. What we do know, the trust system in 6.4 and 6.5 will include all of Stormblood. So by the end of Endwalker, the entire game's main story, main scenario quest dungeons are all trust system activated.
Yeah. It's
I'm
going to be
pumped.
fucking great.
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
Mm-hmm.
Well, who do we get in Stormblood? Like,
Oh my God, Xenos, what are you doing here?
yeah, that's crazy. No, but like, Heaven's Ward, we're missing. We don't see Thancred that much. We don't see Yerstola. Technically, Astinian's not a scion yet. Who do we go on trust with? It's like, is Amelian's coming? No, of course not. But is, who else is going to come with us? Yeah, exactly.
It'd probably be like the Doma guys, and
Right.
There's definitely a number of people there that are more than enough to help us out. So
Yeah. I'm pumped to
pumped.
just see something different. And that's exactly what they're going to give us here, which I'm really excited for. Then the Criterion dungeons, the scalable dungeons we just talked about. So this actually answers my question from earlier. So they are specific dungeons, and number 2 and number 3 will be coming out 6.4, 6.5.
So that makes me wonder: is this going to be something they're reworking as like a fun challenge,
I hope
kind of
so.
like Unreal challenges, or are these new?
Right. Yeah, I hope they're new, but I also hope that they have kind of the deep dungeon leaderboard, scoreboard type thing attached to them. But that's just a personal want. I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't. But yeah, I new creative and original content. How could you be mad?
Exactly.
Additional area to Island Sanctuary.
Another update. We have no idea.
So that's 2.5 updates. I call it 2.5 because 1.5 of that is going to be the actual portion of Island Sanctuary in 6.2, and then we get 6.3, and then either 6.4 or 6.5 we get another one. So half points for both of those. Like, this is big. This is really big. They're going all in on this.
Oh yeah.
Pumped, but not as pumped as the next point. Golden Saucer. What new mini games are we getting? Because they said they're getting updates. Are we snowboarding? Are we fucking
Give me snowboarding.
I'd be pumped. They already have pretty much everything else other than Blitzball, which has been asked about for like 5 years now. So it's one of the two, in my opinion. Yeah, I think it's one of the two. I think snowboard is easier to implement. Personally,
I'd be down
speaking.
for some snowboarding.
Yeah, so I think that's the easier one because you already have like the chocobo racing, so the competitive element is something that people enjoy. Snowboarding would just seem the easier kind of layup in this situation between those two, in my opinion, at least. So we'll see. But 6.4, 6.5, 6.5 also has the conclusion of the Pandemonium story, which, I mean, La Habre is terrible. Let's just put it there. Further Myths of the Realm, so the ending of the Alliance raid, more faux hollows, more trials, and obviously more shit. But
Yeah.
over the course of Endwalker, we have a couple of new things joining us, some returning. The Hildebrand questline will continue in patch 6.1 and go through 6.5.
Yes.
If you guys haven't done that, I just started it. It is so worth your time because it is so ridiculous. It doesn't even make sense, and it's great. Like, it's fantastic, and I highly recommend that you do
No,
it.
it's dumb anime shit, and I love it for that.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't have to be in the game. It's literally optional, fun side content, and that's why it's brilliant. It's fucking brilliant. And it's also one of the only things that made it from 1.0 to 2.0.
Yeah.
So fucking, you want to know the history of the game? It's this quest line and more. And then the new thing, Tataru's Grand Endeavor will now be a side quest series that will be created.
Tataru's gonna find all the extra trial bosses.
It's either that or like, at the end of the MSQ, obviously, if you're still not done, this is going to be a spoiler. We know where Tataru's going. She says, I'm going to go take over Lalorito's empire without saying it. And this has something to do with it.
She'll do it too.
Yeah, she will. Like she's evil. Look at Larry Zor. He knows what he's talking about. The guy's ready.
Yeah, she might be evil, but she's on our team evil. So you know what? Fuck Lolorito.
Yeah, exactly. And Lalorito's such a punk anyways. I don't care. But then Blue Mage. Level cap increase for Blue Mage.
Well, we were all expecting it. It was going to
Yeah.
happen eventually.
Right.
But looking forward to being 80 and seeing what new, cool, fun shit we get.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So I think it'll, by the time that the level cap increase comes out, I will have finally capped it. So I'm excited to see another 10 levels on it. I think that'll be really, really fun. It's also, hey, what new abilities are we getting? You know, because that's the fun of Blue Mage.
Yeah.
So that'll be really good. The last two things that they confirm for us at the end of the live letter is obviously, like I said before, patches are no longer 3.5 month length. They're going to be 4 months. That's just going to be the new norm. So I think that's good. 3 a year is really healthy. And if you can stick to 3 a year, it also gives you some wiggle room. If something's kind of falling apart, you can either push it back or put it in the like 6.1 or 6.18 or whatever it is, you know. So this gives them a lot. Speaking of 6.18, data center travel is currently being planned for 6.18. So if this comes out in April at 6.1, usually takes 1, 2, 3 weeks to get out a couple of different small. So we're probably looking at May for data center travel.
Yeah, I think so.
Nice.
Yeah,
but
that'd be
hey,
great.
it finally people will be able to see their friends.
Seriously. And
now, granted, again, this is something to I wouldn't think it's something to elaborate on, but just to elaborate on it, this is data center traveling, not region traveling.
Right.
You cannot go to like from America to Japan. It
Right.
is whatever your region lock is.
And I'm bummed about that because I didn't know any better. And I had said it, I think, on this podcast. I'm looking forward to going to JP and learning Japanese, you know, and that's not going to be happening.
No, it is.
Which I get.
Yeah, I mean, because like we're all a part of like kind of like the same data center ecosystem anyway,
Right.
so it kind of makes sense that we could actually be able to do that.
Right.
But going to a different region is entirely a different beast.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's nice though is obviously America's got, I believe it's 3 data centers, so you'll be able to intermingle. Europe has 3 as well. JP has 2, and then Oceania just opened up. I don't know if you guys have seen Reddit and just seen like some of the hilarious shit that happened when that opened up. It's been a fun spectacle. Congratulations to all you New Zealander and Australian folk who have their own data center now. Good for you
Shout out
guys.
to the Graha Guild.
Yeah. Real fun. That was so ridiculous. Oh my god. Yeah, really good for them. But any closing thoughts on kind of the
Fucking
breakdown?
Xenos might not be dead, and I'm upset.
I said that.
You both fucking said it, and I'm like, no, they had such a good ending for
boy.
Xenos.
I'm just
Why would they
saying.
ruin that? If
Yeah.
they fuck it up, I'm gonna.
It depends on how they bring him back. If they bring him back. If he comes
look,
back, how is
honestly,
he coming back?
with the way they've handled their writing so far, I would trust them with something like that,
Right.
like 100%. But I don't know. I also think it's important to let characters have an end to a story.
Yes.
And Xenos had like the perfect end.
Yep.
Like outside of like honestly, like let's hash out what would happen if he comes back. He's gonna be a good guy. He's
Right.
gonna be on our side.
Yeah,
There's
absolutely.
gonna
We
be
beat him.
the meme that we had, the Xenos redemption arc, is going to be a real thing because that's the only other place he could go.
Yeah. And I don't want that. Well, I think it's funny that he might come back, but I also, you know, the more he's one of those characters where the more that he stays dead, the more I'm like, I still feel good about this. I wouldn't want to bring him back. So yeah, I hope they don't. But like you said, their writing is so good that I could trust them to do it right.
Yeah.
I just don't want to.
Yeah,
I guess is the way to say it.
I want him to. I'm just gonna say it. Getting it out there now.
That's fair. Knox, any closing thoughts on kind of this live letter?
I mean, to be blunt, a lot to look forward to. Not really just one major thing. I mean, I guess I'll just, be the, sad schmuck, if you will. I was a little sad to see that Island Sanctuary was 6-2, but
Sure.
at the same time, I respect that, they're acknowledging they need to work on it a bit longer. And I mean, if anything, it kind of just makes that hype train a little bit more anticipated.
Agreed. I think for my final thought, it's super weird and random. They said that this particular live letter was them talking about the roadmap of the next 10 years. I feel like we got the roadmap for the next 2. If a graphical update is your 10-year plan, that's not enough.
Yeah.
But I also think that's just me putting the cart before the horse. They're obviously going to talk about it a little bit in the next one, is how I feel. I think they'll go more in depth on the stuff we talked about that's coming out in 6.1, stuff coming out in 6.2, and then, hey, here's our further roadmap. But yeah, we'll see. But I think that kind of takes us out.
Yeah, no, that's. I thought it was a great discussion.
Yeah.
I really liked what bits we learned. I love the roadmap for Endwalker and hopefully seeing more moving forward. And I'm really excited to see, now that we've wrapped up the whole Heidel and Zodiark saga, where we're moving forward as characters.
What's next?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that is the great mystery, and that is what's going to continue to keep us wanting to play, not feeling forced to play. So that's going to take us out of here. That is the end of our episode. Anywhere you get your podcasts, whether it's YouTube, do the YouTube stuff. Thank you so much for listening to us. We love bringing you guys content. We appreciate it. Give us those downloads. We'll see you guys in the next one. As always, for Best in Slot Radio, I'm DTG.
I'm Ez.
And I'm Nox.
We will see you in the next one. Take care, folks.
Bruce.
See ya.